Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Son of a Blitch podcast. I'm your host, George Blitch. And today I had a wonderful conversation with Brad Leone. For those who are unfamiliar, right now he has two shows on the YouTubes on his channel. You can go search for Brad Leone, Leone, and you'll see his shows. There's two different ones, Making It and Local Legends. Sometimes there's some crossover there as well. He's gone out and meeting all these amazing people, doing some really cool stuff. Season two is just about to start in April. He's had a wildly successful season one. So the making it, a lot of times, it's in his kitchen in his home in Connecticut where he's out there cooking, sharing all sorts of wonderful recipes and tips and tricks of the trade. But he's also going out and doing that in other places too. He's got a shoot coming up in LA. He's going to be going up to Canada, down to Mexico. He's going to be a little bit everywhere. So it's not just in the kitchen. He's going out there and doing that while he's out there traveling. He's meeting incredible people, telling their stories, kind of being a conduit to this wonderful life and feel of whatever community he's out and a part of. They're just both fascinating shows, and I highly suggest you go check him out. You may be familiar with him from his time with Bon Appetit. It's Alive, a wonderful show that he was on for many years. Very informative, very fun. I mean, he's just a fun guy, not a mushroom. He's a fun guy, and I'd also would be remiss if I didn't mention his book, Field Notes for Food Adventure. I got it above me. It's over here. Great book, and kind of gives about a year in his life where he's traveling around and, cooking and foraging and sharing some of the things that are kind of local to his area in each of the seasons. It's really fun. A great book. But guys, go follow Brad. Check out all the wonderful things he's got going on. Again, he's just a wonderful guy. I really feel blessed to have a time to sit down and chat with him today, kind of get to know him a little bit better, and to share all his projects with you guys. So without further ado, here is the podcast with Brad Leone. Enjoy. Hey, Brad, how you doing today, man?
Good, bud. Good to put a face to it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited for you to be here. Listen, I know you're involved in some amazing stuff. You got some great shows right now kicking on YouTube, and I kind of want to dive into those in a minute, but I'm going to put some suspense in the air. I like to talk with my guests and kind of give listeners a little bit of an idea of where they're coming from, as far as, how did you grow up, your appreciation for your love of the outdoors, and cooking, and kind of having this outdoor lifestyle that you have, that you're sharing with so many, and kind of just give us a little bit of, kind of 101. Where did you, grow up, and kind of we'll dive in from there after that.
Yeah, of course. Great, man. So yeah, grew up in New Jersey, in northern New Jersey. Uh about an hour and a half, little less from the Hudson River. Manhattan would be the first part we'd hit there. And yeah, it was although being pretty close to the city, although New York's kind of like that unless you head east or northeast for a while. But like if you go north or west or southwest, right outside of New York, it gets pretty country and pretty quick. Once you get past Newark and into up into more of the rural, and on that top of New Jersey, if you think about it, it's like a little a bit of like a pyramid on the top. I
Mhm.
grew up right on like the top there, the top of the pyramid, right on the Delaware Water Gap, where the Appalachian Mountains and the Appalachian Trail kind of kiss through the top of the mountain. We got the Delaware River up there, and that trickles up, and then a bit further away would be going up into if you went up the Hudson, but right on there. So we were right on. Pennsylvania was super close to where I grew up, and New York was less than a mile away as far as the border goes.
Right.
So a pretty unique, kind of cool spot where it was it was old farmland. There was a pretty cool little ski resort there for New Jersey, or as about as I wouldn't even consider that much of New England at that point, but just like East Coast, Northeast Coast. It was, a hill, but it was a really cool spot. This place was called Mountain Creek or Action Park back in the day, and it was a cool ski resort. Everyone worked there. Everyone went there. It was fun. I think they made a movie about it. People died there. It was a pretty neat spot. It was a pretty unique kind of cool spot to grow up for the most part. Before it became, like most small towns, just like devastated with drugs.
Right.
And that's not a unique story to New Jersey by any means, right? Unfortunately. But a really cool spot to grow up, and it really is where it introduced me a lot to like the outdoors, And that had a lot to do with my dad and how, he was introduced to the outdoors at a younger age by his stepfather. And it kind of was just embedded in him, and he liked it. And as when I was little, he introduced it to me, whether it was bird hunting or small game hunting, or we did a decent amount of fishing, freshwater. Saltwater was something my dad loved a lot more than freshwater fishing, but it was, we didn't have a boat, and it took 2 hours to get to like where you would want to go fishing. So it was it was a whole thing. But nonetheless, he was kind of a little bit of like an anomaly in the state of New Jersey. Like if you got talking to him and he heard his stories, you'd think he grew up in like the panhandle of Florida or something, like catching snapping turtles and making soup and going gigging for frogs and stuff. Like very not New Jersey when you think of at least I haven't met anyone that was like, oh, that sounds like he's from New Jersey. But that's where I got involved with just the outdoors and the respect for it, and kind of like if you kill something, eat it type of deal, whether it's a fish or a squirrel or an elk for that matter, right? And then just for food, I kind of got interested in the food world. There wasn't much fermentation at all when I grew up. It wasn't something that I did or my parents did, but cooking was kind of instilled in me at a young age, and like the importance of just like sitting down with family and eating and having, any food's better than no food, right? But like I was fortunate, my parents, like they cooked. I never got a frozen dinner on a tray type of thing, which again, any food's better than no food for kids, right? But like it was cool, and it was important to see how special and important it is to have family cook for each other.
Sure. Well, and you kind of talk a little bit about it in your book, Field Notes for Food Adventure, how you kind of grew up, in that hunting, fishing, trapping, this lifestyle where you were cooking a lot of stuff. I mean, even you have in that book some of your dad's original recipes written out, which is really cool to see. And so, like, you kind of have that lifestyle that was kind of ingrained. And like there was a big kind of transitional point for you. And I know there's, we're kind of glossing over for time here. There's a lot in your story and where you've gone and traveled and worked, but I kind of wanted to jump into your time when you're in New York City, and then
Yeah.
you're there at the culinary school, IOCE, and kind of what inspired you to go into that direction and wanting to take that next step. And when you decided to join, the culinary school, did you have an idea of where you wanted that to springboard to, or is this just like, okay, I'm immersing myself, I'm jumping in, and we'll see where the ship goes?
Yeah, I mean, I had an idea. Whether or not it was delusional is another thing. But regardless, it started the fire, which is at the end of the day, it seems to be kind of, one of the hardest and most important parts if you want to change or do something, is to just start
Hmm.
something. Do something. So to rewind and answer your question a bit, I was doing construction, and college wasn't my thing. High school was barely my thing. And I was doing just kind of dead end jobs. I was in a union for a little bit, but then got out of that and was just doing like, back when like making $500 a week, it was like a thing, like and just living with a bunch of friends in northern New Jersey in this old farmhouse, and it was a pretty artsy kind of cool spot. But long story short, I was cooking and farm and gardening this whole time. It was always something that I did. It was just a passion of mine. And I remember there was these couple of girls that were hanging out at the house, and they're like, "Why don't you go to like?" And this is a true story. They're like, "Why don't you go to culinary school or something? You're always cooking and growing food and talking about food and shit. Why don't you go to culinary school or something and stop doing what you're doing?" That kind of planted the seed in it. And then I looked into it, and I met she's my wife now, but I met a girl at the time, and she was living in New York. She had like a good job. She was squared away. She wasn't a loser. It was like this like refreshing beacon of light. And and I ended up moving, found an apartment on Craigslist with 6 roommates in Williamsburg. And this is going back 13, 14 years ago or something like that. And moved to New York, and I took a loan out, went to a culinary school in Manhattan, this school called ICE, Institute for Culinary Education. And it was a good door opener, man. It was just that, I came in like, I don't want to work. I grew up working in some delis and restaurants and catering and stuff. And like, I was aware of what that reality was and what that lifestyle and work was. It wasn't just Food Network, which back 15, 20 years ago, before the food really took industry boomed as far as like being a celebrity or social media or any type of shit like that. If you were a chef, you were working nights and weekends, and it was hard, and you still are. That's
Yep.
still the name of the game. But I didn't want to do that. And this is where I mentioned before, whether it was like naive or a little bit of ignorant, delusional, was just like, I want to go do something. I want to go develop the next flavor for fucking Doritos or something, or like the next like ice cream flavor for Ben and Jerry. Like, I want to do more of this like creative development thing. Turns out they're food scientists with like doctorates and stuff, but like long, but it got me into the school, and it was kind of a turn and burn for me. I learned some stuff, but it was like it was a little too quick for the way I would really retain a lot of information. But like colleges, it seems for a lot of people, it got me a foot in at
Mhm.
an opportunity, and I did an intern. I was working at the Standard Grill and in Manhattan while I was going to school, and this other place in Brooklyn called Enid's. I don't know if it's there anymore in Greenpoint, but anyway. And then I did my internship at Bon Appetit. Everyone else was going to like do their internships at these big fancy restaurants where I know they're just going to get ground up, and either you're going to love it or you're going to be like, fuck this, like this, I made a mistake. Like chefing is not for me. And which is a reality for, I think, a lot of people. And,
Sure.
but it worked out. I did an internship at Bon Appetit magazine. They were in Times Square at the time. And, and I just kind of hit it off with everyone. I was the oldest intern I think they ever had. I think it was like 28 or something. Everyone else was coming in like right out of, I think they were 20 or something like that. And so I had a little bit of a I've had a lot of jobs before I did this, and I guess a little bit of grit that some folks just didn't have coming out of school or whatever, and they liked it. And I was roofing houses before this. I'll help you like do what food stuff. This is great. Like, yeah. And then it was during the day. It's Monday through Friday, business hours, and every day is like different. It wasn't like a restaurant where it's a service. I was actually learning a ton. It was a really great experience, but it was an internship, and I wanted a job, and I didn't. If I left there, I was probably fucked. If they were like, sorry, Brad, that was cool, but like, thanks for interning, like, here's your pat on the ass. I don't know what would have happened. My life sure probably would have been very different. Who knows? But certainly. But they offered me a job, and it was basically just a glorified dishwasher, just assistant, helper, do whatever, and it was great. It was whether like I said, I've had a bunch of different hard jobs, whether it was union construction or working for some alcoholic who's a construction worker and like building houses and decks and stuff, or what I mean. So I was like,
Yeah.
this is awesome, and I'm getting paid like the same almost, like, which granted wasn't a lot. I think I started in New York. I think my starting salary there was $34,000, which, like, you ain't really getting too far in New York with that.
Right. Right.
Oh yeah. So I was working at night too, and then it just developed. It just started to snowball a bit, and right things happened, and it just kind of worked out. And did a few years just doing magazine. This is before the internet kind of really. That wasn't like before the internet,
Right. Right.
but
Right. Right.
before like video and social media, and the internet was a big deal for what I was doing with Bon Appetit in that space. But then it started to trickle, and we were doing Facebook videos, and then it became like personality-led videos, and that's where I did a show with them called "It's Alive," and that was kind of the start. It was definitely the start of my video career, if we can call it that. And it's been great, man. So I worked there for a bunch of years, and then I've been on my own production company now for a little over a year now, and it's been
Well,
going great.
well, congratulations to all that success, and especially with your new shows now. Let's talk about what you got going now with Making It. Um, there's just some incredible episodes. I really, really enjoy it. We were just watching with the family, the one for like school lunches for like the kids last night,
Yeah,
getting
that was
some
a good one.
ideas. That was a real fun one, man. It's nice to see a little one in there too. It was cute. But yeah, let's kind of talk about like the idea for those who have not tuned in yet, and I'm sure they will soon. Talk to them about your idea of making it the foundation of that show and kind of what you might expect beginning to end. I know each one's a little different and everything too, and sometimes you're solo, sometimes you got some guests there too. But
Yeah, of
kind of
course.
just give the 101 on that.
Yeah, so there's two shows. Like the one's Local Legends, which we'll get into, but then the
Mhm.
other one is Making It, and they kind of can play off each other a little bit, which I really thought was cool and important. And by that I mean like Local Legends is more out in the field adventure storytelling, tends to be longer format, where we can go and learn something about whether it's an art or a passion or whatever or food and be able to bring that back and cook with it or utilize it in the show Making It. And that's back at my house on here in coastal Connecticut on the border of Rhode Island. That's where I live. And I built a little studio kitchen space, and that's where we do the show Making It. And that's really just kind of the kind of more straightforward Brad by himself or with a guest, cooking recipes or projects, or whether it's fermentation or an omelet. We try to have some fun with it, and that's kind of that real more just traditional recipe kind of forward, kind of what I how I like to cook, similar to like what I did with It's Alive a little bit, and it's been going great, man. And I like having the guests on, whether friends are in town or if I bring the show on the road. Sometimes we're going out to LA next in 2 weeks, and we're meeting up with a bunch of friends to do a couple videos together, and for both Local Legends and Making It. And it's been really great. And we've been working with a bunch of really cool brands, which have been awesome, like Decked and Yeti, to name a couple. And they've just been really awesome and supportive in making this stuff a possibility.
Dude, that's wonderful. I'm stoked to see all the new episodes that are coming out. I kind of wanted to ask you a question. The idea of like going from, it's alive, and you have probably, I assume, some structure there. People are kind of having, hey, we got to have these timelines and these videos, and sometimes I don't know if folks really understand like production. I mean, we have mutual friends like Meat Eater. Sometimes they'll shoot a year, before until it actually comes in, but there's still a timeline with everything that's going on. When you transitioned to kind of running your own ship there, was there any challenges for you in any kind of capacity of maybe like,
Well, sure.
scheduling, what was that? What were some of those things, and how have you overcome them in this year of kind of rocking this out on your own?
Well, I mean, yeah, absolutely, man. Well, instead of just being an employee where I show up, we do the video. And granted, I'll give Condé Nast and Bon Appetit a lot of credit for me. They didn't really mess with me much, man. Like
Yeah,
something happened organically, and like if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of deal. It worked, and they gave me a lot of creative freedom, for better or worse. It was awesome. But then doing my own thing. So instead I had, and I would just show up. They had a whole team of editing. They paid for everything. I had no headaches
right.
other than creative,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
was not too much of a headache. And but when on my own now, it's like, and editing's huge. It's like a band. Like I can't do this on my. I'm sure I could, but I don't have the tools or the skill. I'm not an editor. I don't have the brain to sit down for 40 hours and zipper this thing up. I'm sure I may. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
yeah, yeah.
have their own skill sets, and it's its own
Sure.
job. And so like building out a team. Thankfully, I met some really great folks over the years, um and I built a small team to make these videos possible. And we're learning a lot, and it's evolving, and it's expensive as hell to make the types of videos that we do. So yeah, man, there are a lot of challenges on it, and to be honest, we're it's been 1 year, and season one for both episodes for both videos were awesome, and I'm happy with them. But it's one of those things where you're always kind of trying to do it better and grow and evolve, and it's the internet too, right? So like it's got to be good, and there's a lot of really good people out there. So it's yeah, it's a full on business at this point.
Oh yeah.
That's a create that's driven by creativity, and yeah, it's a pretty strange thing, and especially like I have a family and stuff, so it's not just like it's me, like And there always is that little bit of like seed in the back of your brain where like the internet's ruthless. They can just like, if they just stop liking you, like I don't have a job anymore, like, so like there's that.
Yeah, no, that it all makes sense, man. Kind of before we jump into the other show we were talking, you mentioned there, local legends. I wanted to kind of just ask a couple of the questions about making it. Now, I know the collaborations, you had some other chefs on there. Jesse Griffiths, one mutual friend of ours. It was a really cool episode there. Are there some other ones that you have coming up? You can maybe give us a little teaser on too. And then the other thing I was going to ask, is there anybody who you have circled, you're like, one day I want to cook with them, but has not kind of, to maybe put that in the universe today? Is there somebody that you want to sit down and kind of do a show with?
Oh gosh. I'm so bad at answering questions like these. I really am.
Uh,
Um, we'll answer that one last. But yeah,
yeah, fair.
the problem is I could probably come up with a list of 100,
Right, right, right. Yeah,
It's same as like places to go. There's just point out a place and you could probably find something really interesting that you'd
sure.
want to go, or a person you'd want to do something with. But yeah, so what was the first half of
Just the idea of like, you've got all these chefs that you've worked with, and I was just kind of curious if there was some other, folks. I know you're coming into LA here, and you mentioned in a couple weeks, and this episode will probably be airing in February here. So, just if there were some other people that are coming in, some teasers of some of the other collaborations you got kicking.
Yeah, so for season two, we're kicking off in April, which would be a lot of fun. And for the first episode, we got together with my buddy Matty Matherson from up in Canada, and I brought him out to the Boston area with a buddy of mine, this cat Charlie Nutting, and we brought him. We went spearfishing, or we tried like hell, and we got some crabs and some lobster, and this other scuba diver guy stopped by and he gave us some scallops, and so we got in the water. It was a tough day. It was bad visibility. We certainly had to work for him. There was a storm a few days before we showed up, and I think it kind of like it screwed up the viz, but it also kind of just, I think it just kind of shut down the fish a bit. Like
Yeah.
I've never been up in that area, but that guy Charlie, he knows what he's doing, and he was working hard. We got some fish, not what we were exactly targeting, but kind of a happy accident. There were these really delicious fish that I don't really get down by me. Long story short, that'll be season two, episode one of Local Legends, and then I kidnapped Maddie and brought him back to my house, and we took all of our bounty from the sea, and we made like one of the best dishes I've had in a very long time. It was awesome.
Oh man, I can't wait to see that one. I went
Yeah,
to
and then we got
school
a
in.
bunch of travel. We're doing a coffee down in Mexico, where we're starting up with my buddy and Dean Petty up in Nova Scotia, and we're gonna. He's got a coffee roastery up there, and we're gonna start there and go all the way down to Mexico, or we're gonna start in Mexico and go all the way up to Nova, and just do like a whole follow the coffee bean from start to finish, and make like a Local Legends like limited edition coffee bag, which would be cool. Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff planned up, man, and excited for it.
Dude, I'm excited for it too. I love the idea of you're going out there and meeting the people who are doing this in their area. You get a good sense of, that vibe, that city, whatever it is that they're producing. I mean, the New Orleans one, or the glass blowing, that was huge. And what a story she had. Wow. And then, New York Nico, and going around and kind of seeing some of the folks there. That was is Tiger Hood, wasn't it? Is that his name?
Yeah,
Like, I mean, these are really cool, local folks that you're kind of shining a spotlight on, and I really
thanks,
love
man.
that
And
idea.
you know what?
So awesome.
As far as like it's a risk, and I like making those videos. Like New York Nico. I mean, for a few reasons, like it's not our best performing video. I think it's an awesome video. I like those stories. Um, it's not every video we make is just like by design, just like internet like fodder, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
not everyone's gonna click on these specific things, like, but I like it, and and it's a muscle the longer, just making grilled cheese or lobster blah 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 or this or that, and like, and God bless, I'm glad there's a lot of variety out there and people make a lot of really cool videos. I just don't have it in me to do the recipe kind of chop 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 chop,
Yeah.
and that are 2 minutes long. They do great, and it's just they like melt your brain. It's like just easy to watch, and it's entertaining and just quick, 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 quick. But I have a soft spot for the longer format and character development. Like that's kind of where that's the stuff I grew up watching a bit. As far as inspirations go. Like obviously Bourdain was a
Hmm.
huge and like a huge inspiration for me for what I'm doing. And like he didn't make a cooking show. He made a human show. It was about
Yes.
he didn't cook anything. But he was just very he was the way he spoke and the way he described things and the way he traveled, and there was a darkness to him, and obviously he had some demons, but like it was like a longer formatted type of more character kind of driven story, and that was arguably one of the best food shows ever made, right? Like so like trying to like fill those big shoes a little bit. And then like in that world I've always loved, I just want to make things that I want to watch a bit, and like
Yeah.
like how it's made or dirty jobs or things like that, where it just kind of shows you a little bit of someone else's world. I kind of dig that, and the food space being so an outdoor food lifestyle, whatever genre bullshit. But there's just so many stories out there and people doing incredible things. um I'm just fortunate that I like to, and people like to, at least enough people like to watch and hear me, experience that with them. Because I like to make videos where I'm not necessarily just teaching people things. I'm no
Hmm.
expert in anything by any means. But I'm curious, and I like to and I get along with people, and I can bring good things out of people. So like it tends to make a good video.
No, it really does, man. I mean, and it's highly entertaining. I've watched a bunch with my family, sent it out to a bunch of friends, all the feedback. Like, I love that longer format where you're really able to introduce people and kind of get a good idea of a feel for what it is and learning that skill. I mean, even just like glass blowing, just like seeing kind of the A to Z, even though it's like kind of, a quick, snippet, you're really getting to see what that's about and kind of learning some of the, verbiage in that. And it's very educational, but it's overall, all your shows are fun, informative, and I mean, you got a great personality, work well with others, so it's cool to see those collaborations, and it just some amazing meals as well too, man. So I really enjoy it. I'm looking forward to season two. Make sure everybody tune in and doing that. Before we sign off, I do have a couple questions left. One is about your own legacy. And it's kind of a big question too, so you can answer however you like, but I'd like to ask my guests as far as like what you kind of want to be remembered by, and with who as well. So like personally, professionally, what do you think about your own legacy, or is that something that kind of is something that's in your everyday as you're producing all this amazing content, putting that out in the world? Is there any kind of a bit of that where you're kind of consciously thinking about that while you're doing this?
Well, maybe subconsciously, I guess I never really, it kind of freaks me out a little bit, the word legacy,
Hmm.
um not freak me out like make me nervous, but freak me out like it just seems a little egotistical in a sense, um but no, I mean, I guess maybe I'm overthinking that. Like I guess at the end of the day I want, down the line, I would want my kids to respect what I did for a passion or as a person, and like, and it's a weird world we live in where everything you do, especially stuff like what I do for a living, it's on the internet. And until like the internet dies, like like you can like see that stuff forever, right?
Hmm.
Like you can just look it up and watch it for forever. So to have to put yourself out there and on that so much, and I don't think a lot of people realize that like the side effects or the consequences of that. So just to try to be a good person, and to where when in 30 years from now, God willing, my kids are into me and I'm into the life I lived and that I put out to the world, I guess.
Right on, man. Well, I know that a lot of folks are probably going to want to, if they already aren't following you, they want to figure out where it is that they can go to watch your shows. Let's give your YouTube handle, Instagram handle, any place where people can go and find you, and your website and all that.
Yeah, website's bradleone.com, and Instagram, just write my name in there, Brad. I think it's just at Brad Leone. And the YouTubers is youtube.com/um right? That's the
Yeah,
slash.
yeah, yeah, backslash.
Backslash Brad Leone, and that's Leone. The E is not silent, but that doesn't matter when you're typing.
It's true indeed. Well, man, thank you so much for joining me today and chatting about this. I wish you nothing but the best for season two and all your endeavors. Thank you so much for sharing your talent with the world and giving us a good smile and a laugh along the way, man. I really thoroughly enjoy your show. And yeah, everyone else go check out all of the amazing shows. We got Local Legends, we got Making It, and they're all on the YouTubes for you.
Hey, appreciate it, bud, and thanks again for having me on the podcast. Looking forward to it coming out.
Absolutely, man. You take care. Have a great day.
All right, right on you too, man.
Cheers. Adios.